Today we're going to look at the journey and the hero. In other words, we're going to look at archetypes for the hero. So what is an archetype? Well, very old patterns or images that reoccur over and over again in literature. Now they can refer to the characters if you see a certain type of character being used over and over again in stories. Maybe there's a certain symbol that is being used over and over again in a certain story. Maybe perhaps a certain situation keeps coming up from story to story. All these things that keep on reoccurring over and over again, they're considered archetypes. So the journey or the quest is one type of an archetypal pattern, and that involves a long, dangerous quest, like Odysseus and several others. That's why it's an archetype. So what are these characters' quests? So if we take a look, we do have a hobbit who's kind of looking at us with a sword. I believe he has a ring in hand. He's going on a long journey. We have another young man here with a lightsaber in his hand. I believe this young man is also going on a journey. And then, of course, this young ogre is also going on a journey because he needs to save his home. So there's three long journeys that we have here. It doesn't matter if we're looking at Shrek or of Star Wars or the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. We have got an archetypal pattern of a journey or a quest for all three. So what are the characteristics of the journey or the quest? Well, the heroes will go on a physical journey. Usually on that journey, they will undergo a change to themselves. Now, the hero is usually reluctant to leave. They don't necessarily want to do the journey. And of course, as they're on the journey, there are many trials and tribulations along the way. People are trying to stop them, or there are certain events that they'll get involved into. And then the hero becomes wise about the world and about themselves because of the journey. They become more wise because they've left their home or they're trying to get back home. And then, of course, he or she returns home and then shares this wisdom. So what do these characters have in common? What type of characters do we have? Well, we have Romeo and Juliet. We once again have Shrek, but he has Fiona with him. And then, of course, we have Ariel and Eric, and, of course, all of the other characters in The Little Mermaid. There is something that all three of these movies have in common. And that would be the forbidden lovers archetype. So what is the characteristic of a forbidden lover archetype? Well, the lovers are from two opposing groups. They're not supposed to be together. Shrek is an ogre. He's not supposed to be with Fiona because she's a princess. She's a human. Same thing with this idea of humanity with Ariel and Eric. Eric is a human. Ariel is a mermaid. They're not supposed to be together. Romeo and Juliet come from two opposing families. There are rival families in Italy. They're not supposed to be together. Great obstacles must be overcome for the two to be together. A lot of times they are trying to hide their love, or they are trying to, through some sort of magic, come together as one. And then one lover may have to sacrifice or struggle more than the other in order to make the relationship work. Next archetype, what do these characters have in common? So here we have the football player Rudy. Now this was based on true life events movie. We have the little engine that could. You can see it's a little golden book. And then of course we have the Lord of the Rings once again. So the archetype that we have here is the unlikely hero. Well, what's a characteristic of an unlikely hero? Well, unlikely heroes usually have some sort of mental or physical limitations. When it comes to Rudy, he's a little guy and he wants to be a football player, in particular a defensive football player. When it comes to the Lord of the Rings, we do have a hobbit-like character who's very small, but he's the one who's given the ring and he needs to get it from point A to point B. When we look at the little engine that could and other little golden book types where, again, this is a small engine, he's smaller than the rest of the trains, we see that they have some physical or mental limitations in them. Now, these heroes are usually lacking in one or more of the qualities of a traditional hero. Usually when we think of a traditional hero, they're strong, they're brave, they do selfless deeds, they come from royal backgrounds, they usually have a lot of intelligence with them. And unlikely heroes, they're still heroic, but they are missing one or more of those traditional hero-like qualities. Now, what do these characters have in common? So I believe we're looking at Snape from Harry Potter. We also have Two-Face from Batman or a Marvel series, excuse me, a DC series. And then, of course, we have Darth Vader from the Star Wars series. This archetype is known as the torn villain. What is a torn villain? Well, they're still a villain. They're still considered by most who are reading or viewing that they're a bad guy, but they're not entirely evil. They are a villain, but they have good qualities. And a lot of times you see regret in the actions of the villain. They are going to regret what they have done to your quote-unquote good guys. Now, the villain is usually linked to the hero in some way. They're a former friend. They're a family member, like in Star Wars, or the former friend, like in Two-Face. Some sort of, like for Snape, he happens to be a teacher. He happens to be a mentor for Harry Potter. Usually they are linked to the hero in some way. Next, what do these characters have in common? So we have Hercules and all the other characters in the story. We have King Arthur. And then we have Beowulf. Now these are the epic heroes. So what is an epic hero? Usually they are people who actually existed at one point in time, but legend has made them braver, stronger, and smarter than other humans. So they've gone past the point of really believing 100% fact, and we're starting to see now a legend being made of them. They're braver, they're stronger, they're smarter than the other humans still in their stories. Usually they're on a quest for something that's of great value to them or to their people. Now, they face incredibly difficult villains and dangers, and usually that is several. There's one trial after the next, after the next. Because they are based on a real human, they still possess human weaknesses. And then, of course, because there still is a sense of legend where it's not 100% true here, they may or may not have divine help. So now let's look at the values of society. Why do we take a look at these types of heroes? Why do we keep bringing these heroes back time and again into our stories? Well, the archetypes aren't planned. They occur because they represent qualities and characteristics that our society is valuing. Our society wants to continue bringing these heroes up because we're learning from them. So then what do the archetypes we've discussed reveal about human values? Do we need divine help and be stronger and faster all the time? Do we need to have an unlikely hero who comes and saves us in spite of their weaknesses? Do we need to have a torn villain, somebody who's essentially a quote-unquote bad guy, but they can regret their actions? I mean, with all these different types of heroes, what does that say about our human values? Thanks for stopping by, guys, for Archetypes. If you liked this, please like and leave a comment for me to tell me what else you'd like to learn more of. I would also love it if you consider subscribing to the channel. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by.